Iowa has passed a bill that would severely restrict abortion rights. So the so-called heartbeat bill would not allow a woman to have an abortion if there is a heartbeat detected. Thing is, heartbeats can be detected as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy. This is actually quite typical. So effectively, it would mean that women would not be able to get abortions, especially in cases where they don't find out that they're pregnant until week 8, 9, or later. So now the bill would actually require women seeking an abortion to first provide an ultrasound that shows there is no heartbeat. Now, the bill has been passed in the House and the Senate, but it has not yet been signed by the governor. However, the governor is very pro-life and is expected to sign the bill.
I think I finally figured out what the red line for Trump supporters could be, which is, imagine if there was some revelation that he paid for an abortion for any of his mistresses. That would be amazing, right?
I know.
Like late stage.
It would just be another hypocrisy.
It'd be another
administration
one.
Of hypocrisy.
But okay, so
there is no red line.
Right, there is no red line. So this is actually beside the point, but it is what is consistent is the fact that he has created a Supreme Court that should this go up to a federal level before it was struck down in terms of like Arkansas and Mississippi. We don't know if Roe versus Wade could be turned over because of Iowa's potential decision to approve this abortion ban. And you know what's really...
That is the strategy here,
right,
by the way.
I know. It's totally the strategy. And that's why I'm saying it would be really interesting and ironic because the Supreme Court has been stacked to this conservative favor. And women now are wearing these 1973 jewelry pieces to remind us how important it is to still continue to work and organize around protecting this right that we have. And you know, we could talk about the fact that the government has no right in controlling a woman's body. It's misogynistic, blah, blah, blah. What I find really interesting, though, is that these same conservatives have such a hard time with quote unquote creeping Sharia, with Sharia law being passed. They've passed bills that are anti-Sharia. Actually, Sharia is a lot more lax than these conservatives on the issue of abortion for women and for the time period when you can have an abortion. So it's
fascinating.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's a lot of things that people don't know. When they're scared, they just react, and they don't even try to find out about the thing that they're afraid of. They just react to it. So I mean, you know what? I think what the Middle East really is afraid of is having American conservatism take hold, for real. I mean, like, yes, economic pillaging and extraction and massive wars, death, bombardments, and drones, but like, we don't live like this, really.
Boy, that speaks to how restrictive it is. If this culture that we associate, the general culture of the Middle East, which we associate with so restrictive, you'd say is actually less restrictive in this area.
Any single time that it's adopted anything that's really conservative, it's either come from European colonizers or the West. So I'll give you an example. All the anti-homosexuality laws on the books are from the European colonizers' laws. All over, across the Middle East.
How about the women? This is kind of a digression, sir, but just because you're on it and you mentioned it, how about the women, the women's rights, and this would fall under, it seems, women's rights.
Right. So this is what's fascinating is in reaction to the Europeanization of their countries and the secularization, women put on headscarves to reclaim their rights in the early.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, in the early 20th century. So there's a very dynamic relationship with what is considered a women's rights issue. And for some folks, it is the right to have their own relationship with their faith and the way that they narrate it. So places like Turkey and Syria outlawed the headscarf in public, in state institutions. So they would be arrested if they showed up as a teacher with a headscarf on. And so that's, for them, that was a huge movement, was to rile up against that. So things shift around a little bit, but we're definitely a lot more open around things like that in divorce.
But this restriction that we're talking about, this abortion bill, then it's interesting to know that in the Middle East it would likely...
Well, at a certain time period, you know, there's different strands of political thought, but definitely for people who follow, and there's also different religious traditions, right?
Sure.
People who follow Islam and the different kinds of rulings have a much more expansive understanding of the window for a woman's right to abortion and for contraception, which, of course, like the Catholic Church is revisiting.
And be that as it may, when it comes back to this country and this Iowa bill, which will be signed, as you say, Lizette, it's really a play for a policy, a federal policy, and a Supreme Court case. And Roe v. Wade, it just didn't feel as though realistically that would ever be overturned or even get close to being overturned. I think now it's not only close, with a stacked court, it could go away.
All it takes is a shift in the Supreme Court. So, we like to think of it as sort of a staple of democracy and of our beliefs here in the U.S., but the truth of the matter is it relies heavily on who is sitting as a judge in the Supreme Court, and that can change.
And it breaks my heart that we didn't fight hard enough to fill Scalia's seat and have.
Oh no, you're gonna make me cry now.
Well, and push, and this is what was the disappointing thing about the Obama era. I think there were many key moments when we realized we could have fought for things that would have had some resistance, but clearly, Trump's administration's coming out with all guns out, right? And in ways that the Obama administration could have been more risky, could have been more aggressive, and maybe that wasn't the tactic or the method that the administration wanted to choose because they wanted to constantly work on uniting the country. But it's a shame that seat was open for longer than I guess any other time in history.
You're absolutely right. The only path here, though, to take is to move forward and to continue being politically active and engaged so that the worst does not happen.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.